so much for coming. Who's excited to see the Jezabels? Everybody? Awesome. Okay. So actually, we are going to bring Haley and Nick out in a little bit, but before we do, they just released The Brink in February. It is their sophomore record. It's fantastic. How many of you have listened to this already? Okay, so you kind of can't stop listening to it once you start, right? It's an earworm. It's a really, really great poppy record full of really awesome, fantastic dance anthems, and they're gonna play some of that for us tonight, so we're really excited about it. But I guess we're just gonna bring them out, yeah? Sweet. Okay, so give a big round of applause for Haley and Nick from the Jezabels. Hi, guys.
Hey, how you going?
So, welcome back to New York, you guys.
Thank you.
When was the last time you were here before Saturday? It's been a while, right?
It was when we played
wasn't
Webster Hall, I believe, actually.
Thank you. It was 2 years ago.
2012, yeah.
That was during CMJ, I think, right?
That's right.
That was an epic show. Well, so it's been a while, and you've done a lot of crazy things since then. You guys have toured the world a few times over. You were living in London for a minute. But why don't we're going to catch up about all of that. But I'm kind of interested in where you guys have been since the drop of the record, like since February. Can you bring us up to speed from the drop of The Brink to now?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, we released it late January, first in Australia, and we were touring with Laneway Festival, and Australia was the first part of touring the new record. Then after that, we did a UK European tour, and we had a couple weeks off, and then we went back to Australia for our own headline tour and a festival called Groove in the Moon. I'm being very specific here.
Yeah. Details.
We can
like
sync
details.
our calendars. You can see if you want. Later. So we had our own shows, and now we're here in America. So it's pretty much
Canada
been
and America, back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
For the last few weeks.
And what do you love about touring in the States specifically? What's something that you really like about coming back to the United States and being able to play crazy shows here?
If I'm honest, I really like, it's this thing you get in America and not many other places where people tell each other they're looking great on the street. Like you're walking down the street and people are like, your hair looks great. And you're like, wow. I thought it looked terrible today. That's so good. Thank you, stranger. And then another person says, hey, you having a great day? And you're like, yeah, because you spoke to me. I like that about America.
You are where you're saying this to New Yorkers, right? Who are not necessarily the friendliest people, but we're friendly, you guys.
I mean, okay, maybe there's some people that are way too cool to do that, but I hope that the old ways never die.
Okay.
I really do.
What's the weirdest compliment you've received at a show? In the States, specifically. You know, people have come up and been like, yo, your hair looks great, your outfit is awesome. I just complimented her jacket backstage, by the way, so I'm guilty of this too. Or it's awesome that I did that. But
that's pretty weird. I mean...
I said the weirdest thing to you?
No. Weirdest compliment.
Probably accurate.
I can't think of any weird compliments. Sometimes people are surprisingly frank. Someone's come up to me before and just said, you looked really awkward on stage.
That's not a compliment.
That's not very nice at all.
That's not a compliment. I can't think of any awkward, strange compliments, but...
But no, in Germany they have a tendency to compliment you and then give you... Wait, no, they give you a compliment, then an insult, then a compliment.
Yeah.
Compliment sandwich.
It is the compliment
very
sandwich.
Or an insult sandwich.
Complicated compliments.
Because they feel they need to help you on your way. They're like, it was good, the second song was not so good, the rest of it was quite good. Or the drumming was not so great at the end, but the rest was very good. Well done.
Good.
Awesome. And how has it been kind of getting to know the songs of The Brink specifically as you've been touring behind them? I mean, you just played a sold-out show at the Bowery Ballroom. You just played Firefly. You've got a very full summer ahead of you. Like, what is it about these songs that's been really great to get to know them kind of in a live setting?
I guess that was how we approached writing them this time, because our last record was very much a studio record and like, let's just make stuff up as we record it. And then we got to playing them live and we were like,
just like that.
How do we do this? And they're fine now, but with The Brink, we were like, okay, let's make some songs that we can actually play first, and then we'll record them. So it's been quite quick. I mean, always the older songs have a bit more of a comfort about them live, because that's experience. But these ones have been great in the sense that they were written for live so that we could play them. And it kind of shows because... Actually, I don't know if it shows.
Yeah.
I feel like it does. Because it's easier than it used to be.
That's good. That's a good thing, yeah. What is like practice makes perfect, I guess. So
yeah.
Just insert your favorite cliche cheesy thing in there. So
a man in the sand is like a bird in the hand.
Awesome. What's surprised you so far about your own set list? What's a song that you kind of weren't expecting to be one of your favorites to play every night, or one that really kind of catches you off guard with, how much of a huge dance party it inspires? Like what's a What's been the sleeper hit of the Jezabel set right now?
One, I guess from the Brink, I've noticed that "Time to Dance," the second song on the album. It's
is now our
interesting because
single.
when you play your older songs, I guess that's perhaps what your fans first listened to when they began to like your band. So those always can get a pretty positive reaction, depending on how we're going. But no, from the Brink, it's "Time to Dance." You notice the crowd actually perks up a little bit more for that song. So it's hard to know. It's like you look out into the crowd and you're trying to read them, see what's going on, see what's happening. And yeah, I think "Time to Dance" has gotten a nice reception in the live setting. So that's nice.
I should certainly hope so with that title too. That'd be really funny if people were just kind of standing.
Yeah,
with,
cross-armed.
It's still not a dance song. I think I heard you say dance anthems, and I was like, yes.
Well, I mean,
Someone
I
noticed that.
personally have some private dance parties in my apartment to that record, and I'm sure I'm not
As
alone.
long as you like
Anybody
slow
else?
dancing,
No.
which is the best
Maybe.
kind.
On the yeah, that's good. Okay. So what's do you when you're preparing for shows? Speaking of like this dance anthem situation, what do you listen to really get psyched up?
Like you mean like just before the show?
Either that or something that even if you're writing, I know that some people, they get fixated on records when they're in the recording process or writing. What's something that's really inspired you either to, go crazy before a show or in the creative process?
I have a pretty weird pre-show mix.
You do?
That includes Bocelli's "Time to Say Goodbye."
Wait,
And,
Andrea Bocelli is on your
yeah.
pre-show mix? That's very
Yep.
dignified. That's
and,
very
and like "Wicked Game" by Chris Isaac, and basically I just get really down before.
This is really cheery.
No, I don't know. That's just like what I feel like listening to, and I don't.
It is.
Yeah, I shouldn't have
Sometimes
told you
I'm
that.
like, okay, here we go. We're
Can
gonna
we
play
put
a show.
something
Let's
on
do
with
it.
a
And
beat
then
on
you're
it?
like, you start Andrea Bocelli, and I'm like, oh dear.
Time
That's a very,
to
It's a beautiful
Very
song, but
specific.
it's hard to sort of. I like it.
Well,
I'm
it makes
glad you
me
play
feel.
it.
It makes me feel really emotional and like it's an important song. Like I have this dream. It's a metaphysical job that I would like to invent. That it would be my dream job. That every time someone dies, I get to sing that to them as they're going towards the light.
So you want to be the angel of death, basically?
No,
That's your-
but like,
that's your
but I'm
metaphysical job.
I'm
You wanna be-
like the wife of the Reaper. Like I'm going. It's okay. Goodbye. It's all good. It's accept this. It's beautiful. We're all okay.
I think,
Even though
strangely
you're
enough,
dead.
I just fell in love with you a little bit more because of that, Haley. So that's fantastic.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's a good outcome of that story.
That's great. Okay. I really wasn't expecting the conversation to go to the Grim Reaper within 5 minutes, but that's
Yeah,
fantastic,
look,
so.
sorry.
No, it's great. Well, so you guys you're still currently based in Australia, but I know the last time that we spoke, you guys are kind of citizens of the world at this point. You recorded the record in London.
Yeah, I
right?
still live there technically, I think.
Awesome. Okay.
If my possessions are still in my house when I get back.
Got you. Okay. Well, so wait, meaning you still live you have
London,
possessions in
yeah,
London.
that's
Awesome.
where I pay an exorbitant amount of rent.
Got you.
And yeah, that's where you apparently live when you have this job and you mainly live out of a suitcase.
Exactly. So, well, in that regard, I guess, what's been the most inspirational part about being kind of a musical nomad and being able to really not necessarily be tied down to Australia or to have a reason to necessarily like be going back there? I mean, is it hard to not necessarily have a music scene to call home in that regard, or is it kind of, what's the benefit of being in that kind of situation?
I think for one, when I realized we were probably going to go on tour for a very extended period of time, I sort of liberated myself from my possessions. So I got rid of just about everything. And now I have luggage that weighs about 28 kilos that has everything I need in it to do anything I need to do. So it's actually quite nice in that sense. You sort of feel pretty free to not be tied down with your possessions and your home and that kind of thing. And then other times I would love to just wash the dishes in my house, which I can't.
You can wash my dishes if you want to. You can come back to Brooklyn.
There's
and do
some
that.
homely comforts that you miss out on for sure, but it's a pretty remarkable feeling to feel free enough to literally pick up your suitcase and go anywhere at any point in time.
And do you think that opens up the creative floodgates, so to speak? Is that something that kind of helps when you're songwriting and when you're constantly moving about? Is that an inspirational thing?
I think it can help and hinder. Like a lot of music is about place and location. If you feel displaced, that could be a good thing, or it could be like, I have no idea what to say here, because you're floating between places. But Yeah, maybe I like this term citizens of the world because then you start feeling like the world is your place and you might just write about the world and that could work. I think it can just both help and hinder, to be honest.
Gotcha. Well, and we had spoken about a song in particular where you mentioned a pickup truck in a very scandalous capacity, but so there's a song on the new record.
Is sex scandalous? I wasn't aware.
You know, we were discussing backstage what rating this podcast would get in terms of whether or not it's PG-13 or R. I think we're going to go into R territory right now.
All right.
Talking about
I'm going to pull out some words that we use down under.
So, but a pickup truck is not what you call a pickup truck in Australia.
No, we call it a ute.
Okay.
But ute didn't have the same ring to it.
And what is ute short for?
Utilitarian.
It's a utility vehicle, I think. A ute.
Yeah. Awesome. Something that you utilize.
Okay. Well, so that's interesting
for transporting
to me.
things.
But it looks like a pickup truck.
It's the equivalent of a pickup truck.
Cool. Okay. But on that token, it's interesting that you're from Australia. You specifically chose not to use that phrase, which is comes naturally in conversation, and that was kind of. I feel like that's an interesting shift where this definitely segs in line with the fact that you guys are very international people at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily the more natural. I love how I'm getting into like serious linguistic conversations right now. But
yeah, let's go there. I like it.
But do you think that do you feel a more gradual kind of international shift in your thinking when it comes to your own music? Is it something that you see kind of crystallizing in your lyrics and your approach?
The general answer to that is yes, for sure. But the specific answer about the pickup truck was that one, it just sounded better, but also. It was something to do with mass culture, that song, and I wanted it to be like a kind of anti-snobbery song. Like I could take you in the most basic vehicle right now, which is a pickup truck, because everyone knows it because it's American culture. Like if you said ute, people would be like, what an obscure reference. Shall I look it up? Like it just wasn't really going to appeal to the masses, the ute thing. So pickup truck was about like, I'm just going to take you down in a pickup truck. I don't even care. Just anyone's pickup truck. I'm just having this now type thing. And that's what it was about.
That's awesome. And what song is this on the record so that people can listen to it?
It's called Look of Love. It's actually not actually that crass, but
I don't think it's crass. It's a universal
crass
theme. It's something that people can relate to.
It's about giving into desire.
There you go.
In the most base way you can possibly think of.
That's fantastic. So when we're talking about kind of comparing the places that you've lived and recorded and things like that, and going back to London, which has such a really colorful, wonderful history with rock and roll too, specifically. I guess what's your most vivid memory from creating the Brink, either being in the studio or writing it, or kind of just being in your apartments in London that you're living in? When you think back on what went into making this record, what's one of your favorite and most vivid memories from that time?
Do you have one?
Well, the first 3 months we were writing demos in a rehearsal studio that was under an abandoned train line and sort of an arch, and that was all quite romantic, I thought. I quite liked it. And we got to watch the seasons change, and the seasons are really quite pronounced in London, obviously, which is something that I've only ever lived in California or Sydney, and it's just sort of nice and hot, mostly. So it was, I don't know, I feel like actually being in a place where the seasons dictated people's way of life quite a lot. People have to live a little bit more in the seasons and in the snow, and that, I think just experiencing that while we were writing was really, so I can sort of remember when we were like working on each song where the seasons were at and like what London was doing and how it was feeling in a way. So yeah, I thought that was...
Yeah, that was a pretty good vivid memory.
That's good to hear too, because we would rather trade in our winters, I'm sure, for a really lovely time in Sydney when it's not negative 20 and snowy and everybody hates each other. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's great. What do you miss about Australia when you're on the road? Or California? Well, you've been in Australia for a while, yeah?
Oh yeah, 15 years, yeah.
I
just don't sound like it at all.
Well, so I met him backstage, and I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, "You're not. Nope. That sounds more familiar, but awesome." Yeah. So, what do you miss about Sydney, or I guess familiar haunts from Australia when you leave?
Sydney is like probably one of the luckiest. Like, if you live there, you're one of the luckiest people in the world. I mean, they don't call Australia the lucky country for no reason. I'm not saying it's the best country, because sometimes when you have privileges, you've done bad things to get it, but it's pretty amazing to live there. The quality of life's incredible. The food's incredible. The people are friendly. It's not... I will walk through most suburbs of Sydney alone in high heels at night, and I'll survive most of the time.
Do you
Sometimes I
Vegemite?
don't survive, but
Sorry, am I like, is that's total, yeah. I was gonna say,
I
you
mean,
mentioned the food, I was like,
it's a safe, high quality of life place, and you can't really, when you travel around the world and you meet people who have come from like, we had a show in London where we met a girl from Saudi Arabia who'd flown over to see us, who was in a band, and she said like every time they play they get shut down and they have to just like go to warehouses and try and play a show, and she'd read about some things that we'd said about feminism on the internet, and she came to London to see us. And I was like, wow, like that's pretty incredible that there's, I guess like when you leave Sydney or even like America or anywhere, and you go, oh, there's some serious privileges that I've been living under that I wasn't aware of. It's just what traveling does, I suppose. So.
well, for sure, and it's great that you're able to have that experience with your fans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you can kind of, I feel like you guys are you're very direct and you're very honest in your lyrics, and it opens up communication like that. So you're writing about real stuff. You're not necessarily just kind of writing lyrics for the sake of writing them. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like that kind of facilitates that kind of dialogue. But
Thank you, I'm going to
we
say.
just got real deep there. All right.
Sorry.
So back to Vegemite. That was a fun joke.
Yeah, let's talk
that
about
I made.
Crocodile Dundee.
Are you sad about the World Cup?
No.
I am. I'm
Sorry. I mean, yes, it's a real shame for you guys in the last minute and all that stuff.
You do have the best name, though. So, for those who don't know, Australia's national football team, the Socceroos. And if you look on Wikipedia, it actually it's kangaroo. It's like a variation on kangaroo for all of your teams. Yeah. Something
Yeah.
Like
Look, I'm not the sportiest of people.
Got you. Okay.
So I can't really translate that whole language to you. But yeah, actually I come from like a Glaswegian family, so it's called football in my household.
Got you.
And
Okay.
you call the other one the egg-shaped ball.
Do you call it?
And you're not
soccer
allowed to
right now?
play with the egg-shaped ball.
Okay.
So that's all I know about football.
There will be no single from the Jezabels about football. Not gonna happen.
I don't know.
You never know.
You never know. There's a pickup truck.
That's true. There you go.
Nothing's
not a
off
ute.
limits. Nothing's off limits.
Yeah. Awesome. So festival season, we're in the midst of it. You guys just played Firefly. What was your favorite moment from Firefly in 2014?
We weren't there that long. Like, we just kind of got in, did some press, and then played. So my favorite moment would be playing, and that was an extended moment.
We were in the forest stage, which was like on the other side of the festival, and we'd finished playing, and things were getting packed up and stuff, and they had these buggies that drive around the festival, and as they were giving us a lift back to our dressing rooms, a band of horses were playing Funeral on the main stage right next to us, and that song has been like a bit of an anthem for us.
For everyone. It's just
Yeah,
an anthem straight up.
It is an anthemic song, and that was really, we felt like we played a good show, and that was cool. And then we were being driven back, and Band of Horses were doing this incredibly epic live.
Such a good song.
Yeah, of their song. So that was my favorite memory.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
That's great. And you guys are about to go to Glastonbury, which is huge. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's rather large.
Is there anyone you're hoping to catch when you go to Glastonbury as well? Or do you not really get the chance to do that? I mean, you just did.
Not always, but Dolly Parton's playing, right?
Yeah. Who said yeah?
Yeah, she's
you going to
a
Glastonbury?
hero.
Me too. I'm not. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I would love to see her and all her parts and just the genius that is that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great one.
That's awesome. That's great. You should, yeah. I feel like Dolly Parton would be a really great get psyched.
Oh, yeah.
Just listening to anything she's ever done before you get on stage. Awesome. Especially when you go to Nashville. Next time you go to Nashville, you should play Dolly in the dressing room before you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Will do.
So, sorry guys, I'm kind of rambling. I'm just excited to talk to you. This is great.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
what's an accomplishment on the Brink that you're really, really proud of? When we look back at your previous work, and this is your sophomore release. I mean, you guys you completely relocated yourselves to make this record. I mean, there was a lot of commitment that was involved in making this body of work happen. So, what's your proudest accomplishment when you go back and you listen to it and you think about listening to the masters and just kind of everything that encapsulates this record in particular? What are you most proud of?
Well, I love London, right? It's an amazing, cynical, wonderful place. But my proudest moment was when I sat down on my couch and everyone had been like, oh, don't move to London because you're already kind of dark and you'll just become really dark and morbid. Just don't make a record there. And we were like, I don't think so. I think we're going to be all right. And I sat down and I went, this really is not a London record. And that was my strangely most proud moment because we didn't really get caught up in anything to do with scenes. I mean, we've never come from a scene and we've never aspired to a scene, and there's benefits to scenes, but it just never really suited us. And I think we could have fallen into the trap of trying to sound London pretty easily, but we just failed to sound London, and I was kind of like, cool, we're still us. And that was my weird proud moment.
That's well, and so for comparison, what's a band that you think really sounds London? That's kind of...
Well, they're actually great bands. I just was happy that we didn't transform just to, suit what was cool in the immediate vicinity.
Well, because the record is actually very light. I mean, we're talking
Exactly.
about dark and that kind of thing. I don't think that it's dark at all, really.
It's lighter than it should be, really, because we were in a dark place. I think that was what kind of made me proud of it.
Gotcha.
We used it as pulling us out of the snow and the dark.
Oh, I like that. It's a vehicle for happiness.
Yeah, it was.
Cheesy. That's awesome.
I don't know if that made sense. Maybe Nick has some more tangible moment of pride to share.
I'm proud that we made the album, that it was finished. To be honest with you, I don't know. You spent all that time making an album, and I guess to speak frankly, like there's a lot of second guessing that goes into it, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and nothing will ever feel as good as actually just having completed it, because that means you've worked through all of that to actually come out the other side and have 10 tracks on a CD that represents all, everything you tried so hard to do.
Our period in time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's, a vague answer once again, but, there's a couple drum
we're
beats
not really
I quite like
that proud of people, the Jezabels. We're kind of very sort of self-critical and odd. So, it wasn't like, I'm really proud of this bit. But there's a few songs that I think we're probably proud of. I mean, all of them, but I quite like No Country. That's my favorite at the moment.
That's your favorite?
Yeah.
Awesome.
But at the moment, tomorrow it'll be different.
There you go. Awesome. And on that note, we are moving on to the Q&A portion with you guys. So hi.
You mentioned some of the, second guessing. On Look of Love, the initial version is different instrumentally than on the album version. It's slightly, there was more drum on the video release relative to the album release. How did you decide what's...
that's a radio edit.
Okay, was that what it was?
We've never really been able to write radio length songs. I don't know, just too much to say.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. We just cut out like a whole lot, didn't we? And just squeezed it together.
Mm-hmm. That's the only way to answer that. You cut out parts of the songs just to make it a bit more concise, I guess. I
blame the consumer citizen.
Yeah.
So how is it trying to get work or trying to get noticed over there in Europe?
Do you mean like shows?
Any type of work when you're a musician who's like aspiring to get seen and get like...
Trying to get a record deal?
A record deal, yeah. Well, what you guys are doing sounds even cooler, so that's why I'm like...
Well, the internet is a wonderful and scary place.
Okay.
I guess it's luck as well. We had like a video that went viral that we just kind of let this person put our music on. And it was a mountain biking video. So that kind of, I think, meant that we could tour overseas. But the main thing I would say is actually just ignore whether people are interested or not and just keep going. Because even within Australia, it wasn't like... The reason we don't have a record deal in Australia is because people didn't really ask us to until such time as we didn't need one. So we were like, well, we like this and a number of people like it, so we'll keep going and we'll tour and gradually break down whatever barriers need to be broken down. And then people were like, hey, do you want a record deal? And we were like, no, we're fine. But yeah, that's what I would say. Just try it. Just play wherever you can and just ignore everyone who doesn't help you.
So I was going to ask a different question, but then I got lost looking into your album artwork.
Yeah.
Care to explain?
Well, we didn't paint it, so I don't want to get too deep, but it's by a Polish man named Jarek Puchel. I think that's how you pronounce it. Basically, we were talking about all of our previous artwork was photography, And we were planning on doing photography, but then the album started coming out and it just felt warmer than photography. So we were like, okay, let's find a painting. And then we thought about commissioning someone, but I had a big chat with our graphic designer who does all our album artwork, and basically just talked about the themes of the album and how it was about sort of intimacy and alienation in today's world. And he was like just Googling intimacy and alienation, I think, and that came up because they're sort of faceless, but it's really romantic and you don't know whether it's a woman or a man, and the ambiguity at the same time is like a very specific romantic feeling sort of just struck us, and we were like, let's just ask him if we can use that. And we used his artwork throughout the whole thing. It was just luck, basically, that someone was thinking the same way we were in a visual way in Poland.
Hi guys, I saw you guys at Johnny Brenda's last Thursday and you were awesome. And
cool.
I saw you outside after the show.
That's
that was
right,
me.
yeah. How are you?
Good.
Good.
My question is sort of follows up with the gentleman back here about that you're independent and the fact that you put out 3 EPs, 5 songs each. Was that a conscious sort of, because it seemed it's interesting, you know, each had 5 songs and then the titles of each EP was like a sort of a cascade from the something previous. And was that sort of a intentional thing, or was it just based on, you know, because it had to happen that way based on where you were as a band?
It's both, I guess. Yeah, there was a pragmatic element to it. Like, it's like we could dive in head first right now and try and write an album, but we don't feel like we're quite ready for that. We want to just sort of see what happens, write songs naturally, and see how it sort of progresses naturally. So we thought, well, if this is how it's going to be for us, what's the best way to deliver our music to people in a way that, I don't know, is interesting and sort of makes sense? And we had the idea of instead of disappearing for a year to write all these songs to release one album, we could release them, as we sort of wrote them. And then the idea of linking them thematically as sort of a trilogy, as it were, of EPs. It just made sense. I don't know why. We like the idea. I mean, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, they're good trilogies. Yeah.
Epic stuff.
Yeah.
Really. It was just all about the epic, and also financial reasons. Like an album costs a lot, and you only get 1 round of publicity. Whereas if you do 3 EPs, you know, you get to gauge the waters and get a few more interviews and a few more sort of a bit more of coverage, I suppose. You can tour 3 EPs instead of 1 album. And also, we were just not good enough to write an album yet, I think.
That's sort of the truth. Okay, yeah, we can.
We were finding our feet.
So, as a jazz musician, one of the things I love about performing is improvising and having each live performance be something completely different, something completely new. Yeah, like that. Woo. Random
Out of the
things
blue.
happen.
It's like you planned it.
As a band that may not get the chance to improvise when you're on stage or have changing elements, do you find live performances ever getting tiring? Do you feel a need to change things up? How does that sort of work out?
Wow, that's a funny question. Well, at least for me, because basically every performance technical proficiency is what I aim for always. So I want every single note to be perfectly in time and exactly right and be exactly the same every single time I play. And until I can have that, I'm genuinely not satisfied at all.
So
even the idea
satisfied.
of improvising, it's so crazy when you say it, how foreign it feels to me. I can't actually do that. I can't play anything I haven't thought about for a very long time on the drums. Yeah, so it does feel a little bit tiring because you're always working for the exact same thing. I am, at least, every single time. And that can get a bit exhausting, but it's still like that challenge. That's my challenge, and that's how I approach what I do, I guess.
For me, it's kind of like the opposite. I realize that it's impossible to get the same thing every time. So if you're looking at the argument in degrees, like, we're jazz musicians too, because your voice never comes out the same, and you just want it to sound good and be a human that is expressing yourselves to other humans, and hopefully they'll relate at that time. And it doesn't always happen. So yeah, in my mind, when I started accepting that it's not always going to be the same, and it is more of an improvisation, even though it doesn't sound like it to people. I started enjoying shows more because I was like, yeah, the note was kind of wrong, but I sang it for real, at least, you know? Wasn't on the track or anything, or something like that. So yeah, I kind of like the idea that it's all just different degrees of improvisation. We're not machines, so it's technically jazz, is what I'm saying.
Maybe I should get in on that, actually.
Totally. I've been telling you for years. Just chill out, man. Just let it go.
One of my favorite songs on the Brink is "Time to Dance," and the lyrics just really speak to me. And I'm just curious. I mean, it means something to me, but I'm just curious what it means to you. What
Can you go first? I don't want to limit your mind with it. You know, yours is probably better.
I doubt it. I have a really difficult business that really takes a lot out of me, and I've been doing it for close to 30 years now. And sometimes you just get so caught up in that you actually step back and ask yourself, what am I doing this for? When do I get to enjoy, the fruits of my labor? And that's kind of why I love that song, because I often ask myself, when is it going to be my time to dance?
Yes. Well, you just hit the nail on the head for me. That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, it works. It's in everything. It's like success is this elusive thing. And you get it in a band as well, because people look at a band from the outside and they see it as this trajectory, and they're like, oh, what's it like to be successful? And you're like, I don't know. Just ask AC/DC or the Strokes or something. But they're apparently asking you because you're apparently successful to them, and it's all a little bit of an illusion. But at the same time, it's the journey that counts, probably. I don't know. But yeah, it's like, that's exactly what it was about. It's this kind of searching for success or happiness, and also, strangely, in my weird brain, I feel like it's a little bit about the exploitation of resources and how we're always looking for a new gas or that was a big issue in Australia the last few years. There's a mining boom, and it's like, we're going to use this now, but we're still not that happy, but we're going to use this one now and this resource here and keep using them until such time as we have to go to the moon and use those resources. I don't know. It was just about this constant using up of our energy to get to somewhere that we never recognize, which made me feel confused and a little bit tired. And just I wanted to just dance and chill out on a desert somewhere. Yeah, so that's, you basically hit the nail on the head. Still not quite time to dance yet, though, is it?
It's always time to dance. Thank you so much for being here, the Jezabels.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go listen to the record as soon as you get home.